I'm Bruce Marjoribanks, the program leader for the Master of Arts in Childhood and Youth Study, and I'm with Liz Woolley, who is the pathway leader for the Youth Work Pathway. Liz, can you describe what a youth worker does and what type of people or groups a youth worker might work with?
Of course, Bruce. Hello, Bruce. Yes, Liz Woolley, Senior Lecturer in Community Youth Work and, like Bruce has said, Pathway Leader for this wonderful MA. So, youth worker, what do we do? That good question. So, I think what we'll say is to start with that the youth workers predominantly work with those young people aged 13 to 19, sometimes slightly older and sometimes slightly younger, but there's a clear differentiation to childhood studies. We're looking at the teenage years predominantly. And what youth work is, that's sometimes contested within the field, but I'm going to go with the much adhered to idea that youth work is a distinctive educational practice which is founded on voluntary relationships with young people. So what we mean here is that you as a youth worker work with a young person because they want to work with you, not because they have to. But also the work that you do with young people as an informal educator is shaped by the agendas of the young people and the communities you work with. So you don't come in with a curricula and the young people aren't forced to work with you. It's based on relationship, it's based on and starting where the young people are, as it were. So obviously I've used young people here, and traditionally youth work is found in your traditional open access youth club based in the community, detached youth work, which is street-based youth work, outreach youth work, which is between the two, and also digital youth work has been a real growth and development in digital youth work in the UK. And we work in groups, and we also sometimes do one-to-one work with young people, but it's predominantly a collaborative approach working with groups of young people. But we don't just work in the traditional settings as a youth worker. So there's a lot more creativity about how you are a youth worker in various settings. So there's a growth and development of youth workers working with prisons and working with families of prisoners, youth workers within the formal education system and working in schools, youth workers working in hospitals, some really exciting work happening there across the country, and youth workers supporting things like supported living or residential care homes for young people who are looked after young people, as it were. Youth workers work with all young people, but I guess one of the things that's sometimes more likely is that you are working with disadvantaged and ignored and oppressed communities and young people. That could be in geographies, but also through shared living experiences. So perhaps working with LGBT groups of young people, working with refugees, working with disadvantaged areas geographically as well. But youth workers also work in sometimes in rights-based organisations, so looking at anti-racist youth work, but also youth work around child sexual exploitation and county lines. And where we do that is predominantly within the statutory organisations, so local authorities, or also within voluntary community social enterprise organisations. So that's where you'll find youth workers and the kind of work that we do. It's exciting, it's challenging, it's fun.
Thank you, Liz. So, what qualities are important for a youth worker to have?
Yeah, super question, and a really important question when we think about the qualities of a youth worker. So I think the main quality as a youth worker that you can have is your commitment to work in an anti-oppressive way. What I mean by that is I think that the actions that we have, nothing is neutral. So we either commit to supporting anti-oppressive practice or to kind of just carrying on the status quo of oppressive of the oppression in the world. So what we do as community youth workers and youth workers is as part of our values and ethics as professional youth workers, but that adherence and that striving to live in an anti-oppressive manner, and for that to come out in our work and our being. But also, you obviously need a commitment to young people, and the need to work with young people and communities in an asset-based way. So look at the strengths of communities and young people, not looking at what you can fix about them, but actually what they already have and what we can build with young people and what they can teach us. And so that openness to learning from each other is really important as well. Youth work isn't traditionally about a clear hierarchy between professional and young person. We're really proactively looking to level that out. And so you need to be able to build relationships with young people, with other professionals, with families and within the communities. And that's a really, really key skill, to be able to build relationships with people. In fact, that's the first thing on our national occupational standards, your ability to initiate, build and maintain relationships. We also have to think critically as community and youth workers, not only through our academic practice when we're training to become community youth workers, but also then when we're working in the field. You've got to have patience, because working with young people needs that. But also you really just got to have the ability to have fun, because it's such a fun job, but it's challenging, so you need the patience, but also a willingness to put yourself out there a little bit, to be the butt of jokes sometimes, and to take yourself not so seriously, and the ability to use the tools and the methods that you might have seen youth workers use before, residential holidays, a pool table, all these different methods that we use to build relationships, but just to have fun as well. It's really important.
What kind of career progression can you expect in the sector?
I think we'll start with the fact that doing this Masters, you end up with a JNC qualification. That is the professionally recognised qualification for the course. And so what that immediately does, when we're thinking about progression in the career, it immediately opens you up to other jobs that if you didn't have the JNC, you could go for. So you're already progressing in that way as soon as you've completed. So there's different jobs that will come up for you. Different local authorities only employ JNC qualified, for example. But it can be a long career, and it can take you in lots of different places. Saying before, the need to think and learn and work with different groups, and doing that can open different avenues where you go. And the fact that it's not always hierarchical means that the development of your job isn't kind of going from bottom level, middle level, top level, etc. Now you can do that, and we have got students from our alumni who are managing youth work projects, and you absolutely will be there's almost an expectation that as a master's graduate you will be looking at some sort of management, whether it be of volunteers or colleagues or projects, so project management. But you can continue career and looking at management projects. Also, we have lots of people who are CEOs who have started their own social enterprises or other charitable organisations and projects. And then we also have lots of people who have undertaken, who've done a really good career in community and youth work, and then want to take their skills to related services, be it social work and continuing down that path, or related, or into education. So it opens up to a lot of opportunities in the charitable and the statutory sector.
And what qualifications and experience are needed?
So the qualifications and experiences needed to get on the youth work strand of this Masters, we would be looking for a degree at a 2-2 classification at least, and we normally say a related degree, so something that we can see shows a synergy with the content of our degree, of our pathway strand, but you also find synergies in different ways. So it could be that you've undertaken, you're a volunteer in community and youth work organisations, or you have vast experience as a young person. And what this Masters is really aimed at, as well as those people who are volunteering and previous experience, is those people who are in work, who are undertaking community and youth work as well as they go. And so you might have experiences in your current workplace. So really what we're after is a degree at 2-2 level, some experience with typically at least 100 hours experience, and a DBS, a suitable DBS, because the DBS is the disclosure and barring service, so the police checks. So that's what we're looking for, and you'll be interviewed as well to go through the process of getting on the course as well. So a successful interview.
Thank you. And finally, can you briefly talk about the youth work pathway modules and how the national occupational standards are met through placement?
Yes, of course I can, Bruce. So the Youth Work Pathway modules. So we're really excited about this Masters on the Community Youth Work team. We have been teaching at the University of Sunderland in different ways, community and youth work for over 40 years. And this is where we're now going into the master's route. We've done this really closely with our colleagues in childhood studies, because in each module we see that there's a synergy between the content that needs to be learned to be a practitioner working with childhood or children or young people in communities. And so what we're doing though is you'll in each module you'll share some learning with your colleagues coming into a different career path, but then every session as well you'll get time just within the youth work cohort to explore the learning in a specific lens of your professional qualification. But further than that, we have two modules, one called Leadership in Community Context Youth Work and the other Negotiated Studies Youth Work, and both of those are tied to placement. So to finish with a JNC qualification, then you need to undertake 400 hours of placement whilst you're undertaking the Masters with us. So those 400 hours of placement need to be in at least two different places, so 80% in one and 20% in the other at the very least. In those 400 hours of placement, you'll undertake placement in a suitable organisation. So it could be your current workplace, or it could be one of the many organisations that we know from working so widely and historically with the field. And you'll be supported by me as Pathway Strand to find a suitable placement organisation. On placement when you're at the placement, we're undertaking your learning that we've worked together closely together, the two of us, and you will see the things you need to learn whilst you're on the placement and how they're tied to the modules that you're undertaking. And you will also be supported by a JNC qualified supervisor on your placement. So someone in placement will be supporting you with supervisions, reflective supervisions, and for other professional kind of academic supervisions as well from myself. So you'll get lots of support during the placements. And by doing the placements, it's really important because we see our learning not just as theoretical and not just as practical, but actually the two things together, bringing it together in a praxis is what is one of the strengths of our course. And we look forward to hearing your experiences in the classroom and seeing how your experiences in the classroom impact and feed into your experiences on placement.
Thank you, Liz.